moving forward.
Aloha kako, everyone, and a happy Sunday. And I'm stoked to say I've got a special guest today, Keani Rawlins-Fernandez. Hi, Keani.
Aloha.
How you been?
Good. Busy. Just got back from a planning conference on Kauai.
Right on, right on. Well, we'll have much to talk about in a second. I got a couple announcements to make. ProArts Theater has got White Rabbit, Red Rabbit opening next weekend, I believe. We got all these crazy different people that are doing it. I don't know if you've heard anything about this, Keani, but it's a different person every night, no rehearsal. And so they've got everyone from like Hoku Pavao, Jonathan Udis, Kathy Collins. They're all taking a stab different nights of the week.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And then if you go more than once to see a different version, you get half off for go. So definitely worth checking it out. Yeah. And it's a pretty cool show. It's toured a lot across the mainland. A lot of good reviews about the show and its content and what puts the actors through and the fun the audience has. So definitely worth checking out. Also, we got volunteers being sought for the 18th annual Lahaina Town Cleanup. Saturday, September 4th. Registration begins at 8, and the cleanup will go from 8 to noon. All right, so now we got some things that actually Keani can help us out with. So it turns out there is a advisory committee. So this South Maui Community Plan thing coming Tuesday. What's this about?
Yes, so we last year we completed the update for the West Maui Community Plan. And so now we're working on updating the South Maui Community Plan. And it's been, I think, a little over 20 years since it's been updated, which is not as bad as I learned on Kauai, which is their plans are over 50 years old.
I've noticed sometimes, especially in communities that have formed more rurally in the, I mean, it's kind of, people don't realize how much like boilerplate was just like left in place when we were made a de facto state. So when we finally became able to inherit these things, we didn't realize that there were more squeaky wheels than we initially saw.
Yes. So the advisory committee, the committee, South Maui Community Plan Advisory Committee has scheduled its first meeting for October 19th.
Right on, right on. Anything juicy in there that the folks can look forward to in discussion? Reasons to show up. See, I find that like getting people to engage, if there's at least one tempting soundbite about this that would make people want to like come and participate in it, what would it be?
Ooh. So it's determining land use. So how many more hotels, the South Maui want? How many more visitor accommodations versus how many more housing and what kind of commercial. So it's those kinds of designations that it's determined by the community.
Right on, right on. I also hear you're happy to announce some bike tour regulations.
Yes. So on September 20th, the council will be taking up on first reading a proposal on regulating bike tours up country, limiting them from to being above the 3-mile mark. And that way the guided and unguided bike tours aren't mixing with our residents commuting to work or dropping off their kids. And it's been really frustrating for a lot of the community members who are also afraid for their safety. We just took up a settlement where one of the bike tour riders is now a paraplegic.
Wow. That's pretty serious. I don't think people think about everybody wants the majestic view and the the story to have on their vacation, but people don't think about the safety of doing things like this. I find that it's extremely common in the adventure sports industry in Hawaii in general. I personally, being someone who's moving back, I'm trying to understand where where the problems are and understanding like what's coming in with it. I do kind of get it from the perspective of growing up in Southern California. We kind of grew up in this like backcountry part of the county, and it was like this training ground for bicyclists, and there were a lot of rural zones that we drove through to get home, and it was it was quite more of a problem than it was. Like, we never thought about like, what does this do to society if these guys can't bike? So like, I mean, I'm all for everybody having their space, but I don't know. I to get lost on a ramble already about something that's not completely the item of the day. I don't know. Small things like this get the little bureaucrat in me excited to a degree, because like I will have to tell you that like I stand for things like this, being someone who was actually in a bicycle accident and was on a bike and got hit by a car.
And really, the ultimate solution to this would be having a safe bike path.
Yes.
But it's the state's highway. The state is uninterested in paving a bike path for the bike tours and bicyclists who are residents, and the bike tour industry is not interested in paying for this bike path either. So we're kind of at a standstill where no one wants to achieve that ultimate solution.
Well, I hope you guys get it. Especially with like all the tourism opening up or doubling up on top of the already opened up. But that's more at another time. So let's try to cover some local stuff that you have some great points of view on, and can give some insight to our listeners. I hear that there's an acquisition that's trying to move forward for the Lahaina Crossroads. Could you fill us in on that?
Yes, the Lahaina Crossroads, a lot of the residents there, are low to moderate income, and many, on fixed income. And, when this news broke, it was all over, it was being covered all over. And the community reached out, desperately, asking government to step in and help. The new the new owner wanted to use the facility for vacation rentals. And so the council passed a resolution urging the mayor to take action, and it looks like the mayor has, and will be receiving a budget amendment to discuss the acquisition of the Lahaina Crossroads on September 20th. It'll likely go to committee, so we'll have a lot more discussion on the price and the need and where the funds will come from.
So for those that don't listen to the regular Hawaii election special segments that I've been putting, because we have some listeners that listen to the regular show that are on the mainland, that are Kanaka, that support the show and are also trying to understand Hawaiian politics and what's going on each island. And so, like, this is a soundbite that I'm going to be asking from everyone for a million times to reiterate, but like, why is this important that we put these stops, moratoriums, or at least regulations on a constantly booming travel tourism industry? That's
yeah. I think you said it many times in previous shows. I mean, how many of our people have been priced out as economic refugees?
Absolutely. That's like everybody's story on the mainland. I mean, that was the unifying marker of growing up Hawaiian on the mainland. Like, you got noticed by all the other Polynesians because you parted a bunch, like that Calabash Court. But like, there was just that, like, once you found another like you, another Kanaka that understood, like, there was just this whole breakdown. Like, and I didn't even realize that when I grew, like 20 years later out of high school, like talking to like kids I grew up with, that how much it was visible then on me from my more progressive friends, and then they realized the tendencies, how I had changed when, being able to relate on the subject. And I feel that there's a lot of kids that still have this conversation going on in their homes on the mainland today, and it's I feel that to a degree we could see more support for it in Hawaii if we had more education about it abroad for those that are disconnected and in refugee status, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely, because it's not just those that leave; it's then their line, and it's amazing that you made it back home, because a lot of the next generations don't.
No, I agree with that solemnly. I think it's a struggle. I know a lot of guys going the opposite way and going, why are you moving back? I just moved to LA, man. We can rule the world from Hollywood out here. And I'm like, no, bro. The real life is here, and we can't leave it behind. I mean, I feel that we're finally at a tipping point. Do you feel that there's like a closeness more than we've ever been? Even though the world kind of feels like it's burning closer to 20 seconds to midnight, but like I feel that we're at a point in society where there's just enough people on the right side that we can push these things forward.
I agree. There's a lot of people in the right places right now, in the right positions, that will help us to make that space to bring more of those in the diaspora home.
So outside of the Lahaina Crossroads, things are heating up again with Maalaaea. So like this has been hot, cold, on, off, and then sources have been commenting recently that they're like the mayor more or less knew that it was in escrow by the time that like the county was interested, or like how could you enlighten us on that?
Okay, I'll try to make it as brief as possible. So the Spencer family, owns that parcel, Pohakea watershed, so in Maalaaea, and the council has been we were looking to purchase that parcel. We put money into the budget, and then the mayor started moving forward with negotiations. More money was eventually needed. There was some switching of land trusts. So it was initially the Trust for Public Land, and then it was taken over by Hawaii Island Land Trust. And in the negotiations, there needed to be additional funds. So in this budget of this calendar year, we added more funds, and shortly after that, the Spencer family sold it to Peter Martin. And that, for us, came out of nowhere for the council. We weren't expecting that at all. And it was at a lower price.
Yes, at a lower price. I was just about to say that. I think that's the thing that like it kind of stunk to me from the outside looking in, was that if this was really to be held as something that was like above board and going forward already, like I feel that this too much stinks of backroom deal, and there wasn't really enough known to the council, or at least to the people in general, and I feel that like to a degree this is another one of those like cases where the land developers kind of get you guys to spin up your wheels, and then it's all but too late. But do you think that there's still a chance now with this this eminent domain play?
Yeah. So sorry. With the eminent domain, the county would still have to pay fair market value, which can either be decided on with the landowner, or it'll end up going to the courts if the landowner is unwilling. So it passed unanimously in committee, and it'll be going to the full council for a vote. Some of the comments that were made was that Peter Martin is a developer, so he builds housing, and that there is not that support for housing there. It's not a good place for housing. It's very fire prone, and the watershed there needs to be restored so that it stops the erosion from covering the reef.
Yeah, so like not only the erosion, but like didn't we just recently have problems with runoff out there? So like is
Mhm.
putting more homes any more effective to that ecosystem?
Yes, exactly. Mud floods.
Not good. Not good. So I feel there's a lot of stink we could talk about today, but I kind of want to cover a few more things with you while we've got time. Um I have been learning as, you know, in my process of moving back on, you know, where are the small fights? Where are the hills that are people dying on? What's interestingly going on in just the general ethos of the community, and where do I relate as the media? And like these next couple subjects, um, I I've kind of been lurking on the armchair when it comes to the Honolulu Civil Beat discussion. And just because I feel that finally talking about it, it's kind of like if anybody's actually listening from them, it's a shots fired, I guess. But like, I just like, I feel that, especially from looking on the outside as someone moving back slash someone who's spent more time reading city news than rural news and kind of like finding the adjustment in between, that I I can see that like maybe on the like 20% of the time there's someone over there that's like generally just doing good old fashioned muckraking, but like it does kind of slope towards the needs of the advertisers a little too often,
Mhm.
and in such a weird degree that like it's caused Civil Beat to kind of give some backwards messages occasionally, because it has people that will go out and try to stand up for good things, support good
Mhm.
journalism, but then like a slew of new coverage. And so I bring this up because we have we have a Grinch in Paia, and I think it's befitting because we might as well just call it, because it's almost Christmas season. So let's just activate. You know, pumpkin season, spice season's already here. Grinch season's here, and Baskin be thy name. So we can call him Baskin. We can call him the Grinch. You can call him whatever you like. So that way, however you like the sound bites on this matter. But I got more interested in the discussion of him and kind of like correlatively HCB, because he kind of like in this recent coverage of him and his just, you know, there's so many things to say about this man, and I can't think of any positive adjectives out the gate. But I will say that there was quite a slant to make him feel like an oh pity me person, and knowing what's in the chatter in the community. Like, so hearsay aside, what is? I mean, your take, counsel? I mean, a member of the community, just person at large on Maui. What's your whole point of view on the matter going on in Paia with this guy?
Yeah, you know, so our Maui-based civil beat reporter, she is amazing. But the reporter that did this story was a Hawaii Island-based, and she interviewed me, and I tried to give her as much information without trying to, you know, influence how she landed, and also connected her with some of the community members in Paia so that she'd be able to hear from, you know, those that are being directly impacted by the bad behavior that's been going on for years.
Yeah.
And you know, like you said, where she landed, you know, there was a lot of pushback on social media, rightly so. There's a bill going through the Planning Commission. It'll be coming back to the council soon, and it's to keep the tourist accommodations at status quo. So whatever is currently operating would continue to operate. There was discussion in council because of how the process works with the Planning Commission review, that in order to consider amendments, the commission must review it in order for council to make those amendments. And we received testimony with consideration to align with the Paia Ha'iku Community Plan in not having any hotel development in that district. And so the proposal was to remove the language while the commission reviews it. And that way, when it comes back to council, we can, then make that decision on whether to allow for that one operation, so that's put you in, to continue in that district, or to be in alignment with what the community plan states, which is no hotel development in that district. And like you said, he became framed as the victim in this story of this legislation. He has a special use permit to operate Paia Inn, and it expires in about 7-ish years. And I just saw that he has Paia Inn on the market for sale without disclosing that the permit for its use as an inn ends soon. And so really this was to preserve the value of that property so that he can maximize his profits.
Yeah, so I'm glad you kind of made that point right there, because it really felt that in the in the Civil Beat article, he does a little that but I'm Kama Aina Boo-hoo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that there's a place, there's quite a few folks that get naturalized into community that we go, you know what, you're right, brother. There's always that one guy that gets a hood pass, but I feel that like people who say that they have a hood pass and obviously don't need to check themselves, because then like knowing something like this, that it's still on the market, then it's like, well, if you're trying to sell it, then what's your real investment in the community? I mean, you'd want to stay here, you'd want to be a part of it, you want to try to make amends, make things work. But I think in the laundry list of complaints outside of just, the zoning legislation on him, the way he's acted as a business owner generically, the way that he's treated people about in the community, I just don't think, I mean, he's kind of fighting an uphill battle if he wants to make anything out of this.
Exactly. I mean, he racked up over $500,000 in violations. So he's not, he's a bad actor in continuing to, have weddings that's not permitted on the property, to just continue to have I think it's like luau's, or just loud parties late into the night,
and I feel
disrupting the neighbors.
I feel that that's kind of a shame in those categories, because then like some people get work, and then this is where we end up in that like cyclical colonial problem of like, oh, but that guy wouldn't give me work, so I gotta like stand up for him, but then like all we're ever gonna get is bad work now,
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I like, my heart goes out to some of the people that may have not known how they got into that gig, but then there's some people that I've kind of found that like know very well what's going on, and we're just trying to make their quick buck and duck out. But it feels that there's no real effort being made on his end to think about his neighbors or the people around him.
Yeah. She's a good neighbor.
Yeah, exactly. It's as simple as that. Just be a good neighbor. Because I gotta say that, like, for being in the entertainment industry, there's a lot that you can get away with on Maui if everybody's in on the game and you're nice to everybody. Like, I've woken up neighborhoods at 4 a.m. and Auntie be like, what the hell's going on out here? And we go, oh, sorry, Auntie, we're making one movie. And then it ends with us like having breakfast because like, oh, here's a crafty card, bring the whole family over. And then we talk it out and things happen. But I feel that like, that's kind of like long overrun its chance for like small make amends problems with him. And why I feel that he's kind of fit into this Grinch category, because he's kind of beyond the like, I've made my effort part of his gamble.
Yep, you said it.
So speaking of other gambles, and this is kind of got coverage from other people, but I'm still trying to, because like I heard my grandparents talk about this a bit, because they were kind of like the only ones that ever like kept up with local politics while we were stationed abroad. And so like I kind of knew that there was some crony history throughout Maui and what was going on. And then so like recently some of this comes to light with Milton Choi and Stuart Stant. And I was really hoping, like, I'm glad you brought this up to discuss, because like I recently hadn't thought about attacking, because I need more time to read into it and be able to discuss it. And so, like, as someone a part of the system, like, where is your purview on this, and how does this kind of like affect the perception of politics on Maui? Because like I feel that that's like half the hardest reason to get anybody to vote for anyone these days.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also that, you know, there's so much slant in the media that makes people unaware of, like, you know, is this an isolated incident? How is this affected other things? Are there things that will be, you know, I can't like get too hot button on it by saying like, you know, blink twice if there's something you can't say. But like, you know, what are your thoughts on the matter?
Yeah, you know, it's you said it like perfectly, where it continues to erode the trust and confidence that our public has in our, you know, in elected officials and in government officials, and that's the heartbreaking part, because there are so many really hardworking county employees that then get overshadowed when these types of you know, scandal arises, because there's a lot of really good employees that are doing the right thing. And then you have, you know, some that will then show up like this. And so Milton Choi is the same business owner that was involved in the bribery with Senator Kalani English and Representative Cullen. And so Stuart Stant was formerly the wastewater division's chief, and then under the Arakawa administration, he became the director of the Department of Environmental Management. And you know, what's so far been reported by the FBI is they've found that there's been about $2 million in financial benefit through you know, Vegas chips, so gambling chips, trips to Vegas, so, you know, the airfare, hotel, those kinds of things being paid for by Mr. Choi. And the benefit to him was receiving very lucrative contracts. And I think the report was about $19 million worth of contracts.
Woof.
And yeah, exactly. And, you know, we have procurement law, and procurement means that everything is required to be an open process, where the RFP, so the request for proposal, is posted on the website, and then that way all vendors, all contractors have an opportunity to provide a bid, a proposal, to meet the needs as stated in the RFP. And this process was not done in awarding the contract to Milton Choi, his business called H2O Process Systems. He was awarded through a different process called sole source or no bid. And so it was just granted directly to him without it being a public process.
So yeah, so that's like a burgeoning problem that I'm finding across the United States, and then it's kind of filtering into rural regions like Maui, like this cronyism problem that we have with unattended features inside of small government, you know, because like part of this sounds like they managed to expedite the process using gray area techniques, and then they reaped extra benefits from it. So like that there was a point where all parties had to be aware that they were skipping the line and making a dirty deal, especially after everybody gets paid. But like I feel that there's a lot of people that get like sucked into this system, and I'm still trying to figure out whether it's maybe a combination of all, or just one, we have people that are obviously trying to take advantage of a system for their own capital gain. Two, people that get misled into thinking that they're doing things for the better, because these are things that I'm certain that we both encounter, you know, especially like I kind of ran into a bit with, you know, doing all of these political interviews, was understanding like where people thought that they could do certain things versus what they shouldn't be doing, or what kind of conversations that you can have on and off the mic, and how you can work towards and lobby things in a community like we can between each other on air or off air, but how do you draw that line and how do you make sure you're doing it ethically?
Absolutely. And you nailed it. It's, you know, that gray area where you can kind of maneuver ways that it's still considered legal. In granting these no bid contracts, they put in a system where the equipment could only be replaced by this one business. And so, you know, when you're deliberately installing a system that no one else is able to replace the maintenance work, the repairs, so any replacements, you know that it's guaranteeing this one business all the contracts.
Yeah, and I'm finding that a lot of these things are now being discovered or looked into because we're finally seeing an end to certain political eras, and as people leave, like I think that there's certain things that were just like left going that they thought like, oh, it's in place, I get out, not my problem anymore. So you now have people that like their dirty deed is buried in the backyard of the public forum, and they're just like crossing their fingers that it doesn't get discovered now. Because I find that like as I talk to more and more of those involved in the current regime, I mean there's some people that like I kind of like wonder like, are you really all there on the matter, or are you just, your time is way too split so you don't have any cares on it? Or some people that are like so hardly dedicated to it that even though they are from the lacking community effort as seen by, votership and attendance, that like even some of the people that get caught in the gray area that are kind of on the light side of it kind of get some of the fallout too. So what does this do to the public perception of the county council and the mayor's office?
Yeah. That's, I think, shining light on all of this and making things as transparent and accessible as possible will help to combat what's been happening. Like this happened between 2012 and 2018, and new regime, like you pointed out, and part of what I was working on and the council is supportive of is having all the budget. So where the money is going, you follow the money, and you make that all transparent and accessible for the public to be able to look through. And I think that will help to, increase the public confidence in government again.
Well, thank you for stopping by today. Glad to have you on recently to catch up on your campaign. Great to have your point of view on what's going on in the community. And, as our schedules align, I would look forward to having you on again. You're a great voice for the people, and even when I try to pick sides on stuff, you do a really good job at sticking to your source material, which is very important for a person of your prestige and position. So I thank you for that as well.
It is always a pleasure, and I look forward to talking story with you more.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today, Keani Rawlins-Fernandez, everyone. Aloha.
Aloha.
Moving forward.
We live in a fast-paced world where many people are too busy to sit down and read books or news articles. But thanks to Newsly, you can now listen to the news you wish you had the time to read. By utilizing AI technology, a natural human voice reads you the news, helping you grasp the information faster and more efficiently. Newsly provides the latest news updates 24/7, letting you browse articles from topics you choose. It even has podcasts, including ours. And listeners of Rabbit Holes can get their first 30 days of premium for free, allowing you to enjoy an ad-free experience by using the special promo code in our episode description. So download Newsly today for free on iOS and Android, or visit www.newsly.me so you can stay updated on the things that matter to you.
Moving forward.
Wow, so much covered. Thank you again, Keani, and great to have her on, her point of view. Looking forward to have more members of the community on to talk about the news from their point of view and report on it, on how they fit in the matter. But enough about all of the serious stuff. Let's dig into the fun stuff. So just a little entertainment coverage before we call it a week. Turns out that even amid all of the HBO Max content that's being cut, that our boy Keanu Reeves is going to return for a Constantine sequel. Now, there's quite a few people out there that's kind of got their stuffs in a bunch because they were really keen on seeing the television Constantine finally get his due. But I personally didn't think that was ever gonna. I like him, but it was kind of like a sign of his end when they sent him off to DC's Legends of Tomorrow. So that was kind of like the sign that he's an also-ran version of Constantine. I'm really glad that we went with the separate Constantine in Neil Gaiman's recent piece on Netflix with Sandman. But it's going to be good to go back to Constantine with Keanu Reeves. I think that like it did get a little bit of criticism in its time, but it's one of those iterations that kind of like when you take it at the face value of like what it did for the more occult side of comic book films, it opened up a lot of stuff. I really liked Pruitt Taylor Vince in it. I like everybody, and then that's the thing is like I don't really see a lot of people anti this Constantine anymore, and a lot of people are excited for it. Personally, I am too. I think it's cool that Keanu Reeves. This to me, him returning as Constantine is probably more important than him returning as Neo in the Matrix. I think we've gotten enough stories from the Matrix, and I'm kind of glad to see that we're gonna go back to hell, and I think it's gonna be interesting. Well, let's just hope they don't shoot the whole thing and then destroy it for taxes like everything else at HBO, Warner Brothers, etc. But enough about the hype on that. I watched the What We Do in the Shadows finale, and I gotta say, it's the sellout season, and I don't like readily say that phrase, but in the great formula of things, personally, as a writer, in the way that I see it, like it looks like they're doing a heavy amount of just overall retconning in order to ensure that certain characters stay on their formula path every season. So do I really think that Guillermo is going to come back next year and be a vampire? Probably not, because they got us so close to it, like the whole and we will go down to the Tigris River and I will make you a vampire. And I thought like that bromance with Nandor was going to get so deep that he was actually going to become a vampire. But then I think that that's half the meta joke, is that they're constantly luring you in with every season. And then the season premiere is this big joke of, did you really think we were going to do that? But I think that there's a certain point after so many seasons, you have to have a payout. You really do. So I think that like sooner or later, if they really want people to stick around, there's got to be, you're going to be looking at character changes, people shifting off of the show. So then it's like, if Guillermo doesn't become a vampire anytime soon, he's got to leave the show. If I was show running this thing, like that would be the thing that I'd solve by like season 4 or 5, because we'd have to move on to another gimmick to get everybody back every season. There had to be something sweeter than that. And I just don't think that they have found the sweet spot yet on what can be the new reason for everybody coming back. So, the baby Colin thing, it was funny to a point. I'm glad that they accelerated him growing up and it ended by the end of the season. I really feel like that's the only thing that they kind of established right, like throughout the whole season arc was, how do we have something fun with Colin's character and then just like immediately go back to Colin? That payout right there, that was about where it should have been, but I feel that there's just so much that we waste that could be accomplished with Guillermo that just isn't. But we'll see. Aside from that, Reservation Dogs, bro, this week was really good for Res Dogs. We got kind of like a solo episode for Zon McLaren, which like Uncle's getting a lot of work. I gotta say, get him, Uncle. You're doing a good job out there. Loved you in Longmire. I thought this episode was really interesting in the fact that it wove together real life, satire, spirituality, and horror all into one. It just, how everything managed to work into one cohesive story was just great. And I think that this is like the episode that really serves as like a good mark on Uncle's career. So really good episode of Res Dogs. If you haven't caught up on it yet, guys, you need to. Half the people I'm talking to are like, I like it, but I haven't even finished season 1. It's like, bro, make the time. I did also make some time to keep up with She-Hulk. They're finally into the mix of what it's like to be in a regular She-Hulk issue. So her going to battle for the trademark on her name is such a She-Hulk meets Ally McBeal problem that I thought that that's what I signed up for. That's what I expected from She-Hulk. So well done, worth it. I also caught the Handmaid's Tale premiere. Still haven't watched the second episode of it, but I gotta say that like with the way that we tied things up at the end of the last season, and the fight for Gilead America et al. And the just the slaughter of the commander in the middle of the night. Wow. We're very much at a where do we go from here point. But I feel that the team over there has a lot in mind for the story. So I don't see too many shark jumps, but I feel that there's some that will come in order to really pay off for Alfred's story and for everyone around them, and her going back in again. So I think that it really, the more important value of this show is to continue the conversation of what we could become and we're watching out for. But I feel at the same time it's also at a certain jump scare value with its viewership. So it has a few things that it's going to have to hit there formulaically at this point in its career in order to keep people tuning in. I do feel that some of the shot styles are getting a little overdone at this point, though. But that's kind of the style of the show. So, like, what else am I supposed to expect? But that aside, it's been a good week here. But back to the grind and more. Hope to catch up with you soon as I get more interviews with candidates on the next part of their campaign trail, talk with some more council members, and see where the news takes us on Maui. Stay tuned. Catch you later. Aloha. Rabbit Holes is a Manawa production. This episode was produced by Kawika Hoke and Sarah Rodriguez. Make sure to subscribe and follow on your favorite podcast platforms to add our weekly episodes to your queue.